Hi all, thanks for joining me with video number 9, chapter 6. At this point of time, it's been 3 years since first making observations. I'm making another move to help with my financial situation, not far, actually, next door. With a new location comes the memories in that location. Most memorable is a wolf and a male that today I strongly sense is not from the others from the afterlife, but lives today. I'm also at a stage where I'm questioning what I should do with all this knowledge that is happening as I keep it close to me. For this part, I've chosen the song Comfortably Numb by Pink Floyd. In November of 2012, I was living in the investment property with my son. The tenants on one side of the investment property were moving out, so I thought it would be a good opportunity to help with my financial situation by moving in and rent out the new house. Not the perfect situation, but I was looking at it as a temporary situation. I did this move to reduce my financial burden. Identical reason for renting out my new home in both situations. This move was to allow some time to work on my business. Making all these moves to different locations does help me refer to a time frame as well as which room and which occurrence. When we moved into the investment property, my headboard and box spring were too large for the stair clearance, and a temporary arrangement was used. I was using a dark leather bed with no box spring. A piece of plywood was used as a support for the queen mattress. Going from a high off the ground bed where I had to jump into it to one that felt like I was lying on the floor. One of the memorable occurrences took place in this location. I will never forget it as it left me with an indescribable fear. I wrote it in my book and it is dated November the 19th, 2012. Last night I found very disturbing to say the least. I was woken to find a wolf in full form in my bedroom close to the desk with chair. Just imagine waking up and seeing a wolf in your room beside your bed. My heart was racing. He was in color just like a real animal, not a shadow or see-through image as most are. He was as real as if there was a wolf in my bedroom. He was black in color and his body was turned in a bit of a C shape, but his head was facing me and he was looking at me. I was grateful to see this one dissipate. It took a long time after this happened for me to settle down. Compared to this one time, the fear brought on was different than that of the others. I did feel threatened and was full of fear, but only because I was dealing with a wild animal. This was out of the ordinary, or what I believed to be compared to what I was encountering. My bedroom door was closed, but not completely. There was light coming through the door from the light being left on in the bathroom. When this happened, I asked myself what possible connection I could have with a wolf. How could this happen? This now is becoming one of the questions that I ask myself after having an occurrence, an encounter, as it usually haunts me until I can explore the situation and look for answers. Who or how could there be a connection? It was the next day that I was able to put the missing link together. On the Saturday before, I had followed clients in my car who were interested in putting their second home on the market and wanted a market evaluation. The home is in a remote area in the Lanark Highlands. After viewing the inside of the house, we went to the outside. At the side of the house to the left, I saw in the mud deer tracks that were fresh. I also saw wolf tracks that were very fresh. I pointed them out to the owners as I was reaching down and touched them. This is the only reference I had to the wolf, and it was 2 days before the occurrence. I also wondered if I had been in my four-poster bed, would I have missed this ordeal altogether? Seeing the bed I was in was so close to the floor compared to the height of the other bed. I don't think I would have seen the wolf if sleeping in my four-poster bed. Other occurrences that I recall related to this location include hearing footsteps at the top of the stairs walking into my room and going towards my closet. It had happened twice in less than 2 months. I had not seen a figure, only was woken by the sound of the floorboards creaking, knowing it was someone walking. I didn't say a word, only watched, listened, and waited to see if anything was going to happen. I had also encountered footsteps in the new house. I watched a young girl that I would say was around 12 looking at two pictures that I had placed on the wall right beside the bed. It was her profile that I was looking at. I had picked up the two small oval frames in an antique shop when I was traveling through New Brunswick. The pictures were actually two needlepoints of a boy and girl. I bought them for the frames. As I watched her, I wondered if she had done them. I saw an older woman in the same period costume like one of over 100 years old. The dress was dark in color with a high neck and puff sleeves at her shoulders. Again, it was her profile I was looking at. I also seen this after having an open house in a stone house that was built back in the 1860s. I also saw, as it was disappearing, what looked like a young girl on her knees facing the headboard. I think I'm losing my voice. It's my COVID voice. It was it was a shadow figure. This was a repeat of a vision I had seen in the new house. I also saw what looked like a man and a boy at the same time, but they were not together as presented like the man and boy at the ski hill. On November 23rd, 2012, I had also written about another memorable occurrence. This was the first of its kind, or maybe I saw first, or maybe I say first because it was so close to him and I could make out more than the usual detail. This was a very important one as these occurrences are rare in the way they appear. This one was very different. Last night I turned the lights off around 12:30. It didn't take long to fall asleep, which is common. I woke to find a man who I would say would be in his mid-30s or younger. I was lying facing the window when I opened my eyes and saw him staring at me. I would say he was only about a foot and a half away from me. He had facial hair shaved close to his face. I would consider him to be well groomed. Large, alert eyes, fine facial features, and somewhat of a pointed chin. His hair was dark brown with a reddish tint. This image I'm seeing is only about 18 inches away from my face, but it is like looking down into a circle. The next morning I tried to gauge the distance he would be away from me inside this circle or round picture frame, because he is physically further away, but close enough that the detail of his eyes and facial features are there. So if you clasp your hands together and make a circle and use this as the opening to look through, then you would see his face and all is in color as if in a lit room. Inside the round tube or within the opening, I would put him about 8 feet away. It's hard to judge the distance. This is the first time I've witnessed someone so close in full color since my cat. My orange cat was actually physically much closer than this occurrence. The cat was a foot away, and inside the waving outside entrance, he was right there. This male physically moved his eyes towards me when I startled him upon opening my eyes. He was very aware of my presence, as I know he was aware of mine. My first reaction was, wow. He was close, very clear, and in full color. It's occurrences like these that assure me there is no illusion. You open your eyes because your senses tell you that your privacy is being invaded, and you are totally alert and aware of your surroundings and know exactly what you are thinking and remember exactly what you are seeing, which seems impossible, but there they are. All are describable. I have been startled quite a few times with my responses. I can't help but be startled or totally frightened, such as the wolf in my room just 4 days ago. The clock read 12:55. So this occurrence happened about a half an hour after falling asleep. I would say typically the majority do happen shortly after I fall asleep, say within an hour, but it has happened in the morning and during the night. Also, I would say the majority happen around midnight. Maybe it is not me during this time of sleep, but those spirits that disrupt my sleep come around at this time. There are so many variations to the unanswered questions. I don't understand what is happening. I honestly don't feel I live in a haunted house or that any of my homes that I've lived in are haunted. I do feel that for some reason the spirits have a connection to me, but the question is, for whatever reason. I do suspect that there is someone or something that I have come into contact with that brings them to me, such as an acquaintance or a friend's acquaintance that comes into my house or within contact to me. I've witnessed spirits that I'm able to identify. I have witnessed spirits that I can associate or link someone to. I have encountered many experiences that I cannot identify or associate to as well, but they come to me. How do they connect? I believe they connect through people and things. One good example is touching the paw print of the wolf found in the mud, and then the next day it appears full size, and the next time it appears full size, dark in color in my bedroom. Talking about jumping out of my skin. This had to be the most frightening, but a good example of the unknown and making the connection. A one of a kind. I just hope it doesn't reappear somewhere down the line. After this frightening episode, I thought to myself, well, grandkids, don't expect any visits to the zoo with me. I'm always trying to associate or connect what I'm seeing to a person or a place or thing. The occurrence usually happens the same night of within a few days, but this observation I'm still trying to confirm. There are also those that appear more than once. Some the same night, others come back over a year later. Before I moved to the investment property in the fall of 2011, our minister, who was acting in the interim until a full-time person could be found, had requested to meet individually with the congregation. He had set up a meeting, and before we met, I had time to think about whether I would confide my situation or not. Again, it was how do you bring up such a subject, and is he going to believe me, and what you are going to tell him? It wasn't right. It wasn't till right up to that evening that I had made the decision to bring up the subject. My main reason for bringing it forward was because I felt it was a spiritual connection, and I associate the minister as a spiritual leader. I would confide in a minister, but not a doctor for this reason. When I did bring up the subject, he was quite surprised. He did ask questions, and then he asked if I had seen a doctor, to which my response was, no, I consider what is happening to be spiritual. I believe he regretted saying those words as he hung his head, but did continue with the conversation with interest and was trying to relate with some of his dealings. When he left, I had given him some literature that I had started, very different from what he will read today. On December the 16th, 2012, I was preparing for church, knowing the next Sunday both my grandchildren were going to be baptized. After the morning service, I chatted with my uncle about his upcoming 80th birthday celebration. As I turned, I realized that all were cleared out except the minister, as his usual routine is greeting all going out. He greeted me and asked if I was still encountering my visits. If it was still happening, to which I replied yes. He responded by saying, "I don't know how you could handle such a situation." My afterthoughts went to the stranger being subjected to the same situation that I realized that I had been handling this situation with composure. I'm still always startled or in a fright mode when I'm woken with by something, as I never know what to expect. After seeing a wolf, I'm even more alert to the encounters. My first reaction is that of assessing the situation. I have yet to encounter a threat or harm, but I'm always on guard. Up to this point, I do find myself experimenting more by speaking to see what kind of reaction will happen. The words spoken are presented very quickly, as I know the encounter is usually very brief, with around 3 seconds. The words are usually, "oh," or "I see you," or "you scared me." But the majority of times I just view them and keep quiet. I'm still a little worried that if word gets out that I'll be constantly visited over and over again. I've already seen the same spirits reappear more than once. They were in different places and a different situation with the same ones. Most notably is the old lady that I referred to as Ma off the Golden Girls. Compared to the beginning of 2010, I'm definitely more tolerant and receptive. I recall when things were so crazy and with so many occurrences that I was extremely nervous and scared out of my wits. What was keeping my sanity through all of this, and I've said it before, is the recognition of the familiar, notably my sister and cat. Sometimes when I think about what is happening, I'm kind of relieved that I'm not visually seeing those encounters during the day. It's like a safe place until the night comes. Then I wonder, am I getting ready as I'm getting ready for bed, will anything take place tonight? I'm coping for almost 3 years now, but there has been a steady stream, and I've come to realize that it just may be a part of my life now. After meeting with my minister at the church, I had encountered that night something I don't understand. The way I described it was, it looked like a Grinch. I only saw the face, and it did take me back with fright when it appeared. It had wrinkles on its face, and its nose was pushed up. I wondered after if I might have been looking at the face of a dog up close. Not sure, but at least I'm able to relax if considering it was a dog and not something weird. One person I've confided in since the beginning was my best friend, Denise. We have known each other since grade 1, and we have been friends all of these years. There have been times that our lives have drifted as other obligations have taken precedence, but we kept coming back as needed, not missing a beat. There were memories shared, laughter shared, good times, and not so good times. We both value each other's personalities and lives. She is a true friend of my heart. No one can replace the part she plays in my life. I had confided in my best friend. I had told her about many of these encounters as I'm telling them now. She may not have heard them all, as I was not the type to call each day and update, just say about the strange things happening or say, "Yep, still happening. I don't know if she knew that she was my rock, my go-to person, the person I would talk to, the person who I could talk to. For in the beginning, just trying to deal with this was incredibly difficult. She always listens with much interest. She also knows that I speak the truth. She knows me, my life, and my being. She knows I cannot live with a lie, and that I speak the truth. That I describe it now, that as I describe it now will be the same description in a year or later because this is how I lived it. This is how it appears. This is the same way she was told. No different to you as she knows. Exactly the same described visions. Visions with my best friend usually meant getting visits. With my best friend usually meant getting caught up on both sides of our life, and many of those chats took place with a glass of wine in the hot tub. This one time after the hot tub, we were at the island counter in the kitchen when I asked her a question, which was a something that I felt really weird asking. I said, I know that I have been telling you about all of these spiritual encounters as they have been happening, but I have never asked your opinion. What do you think of all of this that is happening to me? You have never questioned any of it, just accepted it as I tell it. Her response put me at some ease because if she didn't believe in my experience, then how could I expect anyone else to understand or believe my truth? She responded with, I never thought for a moment that you weren't telling me the truth, because you know, if I thought you were not sincere, I would have told you point blank that you were full of it. If I listen to your encounters and I think that I listen to your encounters and I think you are special and can't imagine how you can deal with it all. Then I asked her what she believed in. This is a topic never touched on before. Denise is very outspoken with her opinion. She is very direct, and there are no verbal enhancements to her response. There is no doubt she would tell you in a heartbeat if she thought you were crazy, or would say that it was just stupid or full of it. She told me that there's a lot more exposure to do with the subject in the past few years, and that you can't help but be aware of the supernatural activity in today's society. There have been very few that I've actually discussed this with or had conversations with about my experiences. One of them was the psychic Mark J. Denise had known about him and asked if I wanted to go and see him. This was before I had any knowledge of what was going to develop as a permanent part of my life. That first meeting with Mark was when he lived with his parents and the reading was discussed in the basement. When I sat down across from him at the folding table, he looked to my right side and said, There is a young girl beside you. Without hesitation, I said, That is my sister Sandy. The other memory that I took away from this meeting was when we were leaving, he told me, You are like me. I had no idea why he said this at that time. I did think, okay, I have seen my sister once in the house on concession 8, and there have been other weird things going on. But that didn't add up to the comment, you are like me. Now I see some of what he was referring to. I also suspect he would understand and relate to what I'm talking about or describing. I have gone back to Mark J after the spring in 2010. I desperately wanted to discuss with someone who could relate to what I was experiencing. It was scary and mind-boggling, and I needed some assurance that it was okay. I was disappointed as there was no help. I guess in a sense, he is only dealing with what he has been given, and to look for help or direction is not possible. There was no empathy or emotions, and this is what I was looking for. I had dated one person that I trusted wholly, and I had let him read what I had written at that time. He was very open about the subject. I had told my daughter and son, but I didn't think either of them knows the extent and what I've been going through. I told my mom and brother at Thanksgiving 2013. They also would not know the extent. I felt it important that my immediate family was aware, as was my best friend. Few others were involved, but those people I trusted. I trusted them to keep my secret. I asked myself, how does a person openly discuss to a friend or acquaintance about these experiences? How would you ever start a conversation about this? Hi, I see spirits, and then what? This is a major part of the reason why I'm writing down what I do know. To give all my family and friends the details and experiences that have happened over time, to let everyone know at the same time, and to give everyone the same knowledge. The baseline is even, and so I don't have to explain each one. There will be questions, which is fine, and there will be. Anything new that has happened lately or anything exciting? I've even prepared for those that don't believe that there is a spiritual world or afterlife death for some. I honestly don't care if one believes me or not. This is the way it is happening, and it will be out in the open. Don't believe? I don't care. You can believe what you want. I'm in no way trying to convince anyone to believe. It will be a big relief when I do have this book completed and out there. A weight will be lifted off my shoulders. And this ends the chapter. Thank you very much. See everyone soon.